Born in the village of Radhanagar in Bengal in 1772, RamMohun had prepared for a career in the Mughal courts by studying Arabic and Persian, following in the footsteps of his forefathers. As a Hindu Brahmin, he had also acquired proficiency in Sanskrit, the classical language of the Vedas, and his mother tongue, Bengali. He had read the Hindu Shastras as well as the Quran in the original. At the tender age of 16, he had already begun to question the superstitions and idolatry of the Hindus as aberrations from the teachings of the Vedanta, much to the consternation of his orthodox and ritualistic parents. The real turning point came circa April 1811, when he witnessed the rite of sati being performed by Alok Manjari, one of the wives of his deceased elder brother, RamMohun. The grief-stricken woman had chosen to follow the ancient practice of immolating herself on the pyre of her deceased husband, and RamMohun's efforts to dissuade her had failed. While in theory the act was voluntary, there was no way for a woman to reverse her decision. RamMohun, nearly 40 years old, was a witness as his sister-in-law, close to himself in age, shrieked in mortal fear, her courage having abandoned her as the flames engulfed her body. He watched in dismay as family members held her down with long bamboo poles, and a cacophony of drums drowned out her pleas for help. RamMohun vowed not to rest till this barbaric practice was abolished. While by nature courteous and polite to a fault, he displayed remarkable steadfastness in his core convictions. The rest of his life was chiefly devoted to a campaign to end sati, though he somehow managed to be prolific in many other areas as well. Simultaneously, he managed to learn other languages, including English, and was the first Indian to constructively engage with the British rulers of the day for the betterment of his lot. He amassed a great fortune in trading with the East India Company that he disbursed generously for philanthropic purposes. He helped David Hare set up the Hindu school, later to become Presidency College, one of the finest centers of learning in India. Students now learned English, mathematics and the sciences, along with what was virtuous and true in the Indian tradition. He was also instrumental in setting up a free press in India, publishing in several languages, a tradition that lives on today, forming the bulwark of the most populous democracy in the world. Dr. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, a former President of India, aptly called RamMohun the father of modern India. On the 4th of July 1829, RamMohun's long-cherished dream was nearly fulfilled. The government of Bengal, under the orders of Governor-General William Bentinck, passed a law to abolish the practice of sati throughout India. The East India Company, hitherto reluctant to interfere in the religion of the Hindus, out of fear that its commercial interests would suffer in a resulting unrest, was convinced by the erudite arguments put forth by RamMohun that the practice of sati had no basis in the scriptures. Nevertheless, RamMohun's opponents, themselves influential citizens, took the extraordinary step of engaging an English lawyer to represent their case to the Privy Council in London, claiming sati to be integral to their faith and seeking to resurrect the practice. RamMohun was widely attacked and ridiculed, and his personal safety was also at stake. Undaunted, he decided to travel to England himself to appear before the Privy Council, determined to ensure an irrevocable end to sati. It was opportune that the Mughal Emperor of Delhi, Akbar Shah II, conferred upon him the honorary title of a Rajah and found reason to commission his voyage.
I wanted to obtain, by personal observation, a more thorough insight into the manners, customs, religion, and political institutions of Europe. I refrained, however, from carrying this intention into effect until the friends who coincided in my sentiments should be increased in number and strength. My expectations having been at length realized, in November 1830, I embarked for England, as the discussion of the East India Company's charter was expected to come on, by which the treatment of the natives of India and its future government would be determined for many years to come. And an appeal to the king in council against the abolition of the practice of burning Hindu widows was to be heard before the Privy Council. And His Majesty, the Emperor of Delhi, had likewise commissioned me to bring before the authorities in England certain encroachments on his rights by the East India Company. I accordingly arrived in England in April 1831.
For 2 years he was a guest at the house of John and Joseph Hare, brothers of David Hare of Calcutta, at 48 Bedford Square in the Bloomsbury district of London. Even though the East India Company refused to accept him as such, he became in fact the first Indian ambassador to Britain, and was seated among the diplomats at the coronation of William IV and at the inauguration of the London Bridge.